In this lesson, we're going to set up our last two call-out pieces of text, and we'll also set a few remaining standalone boxes of text. Okay, so one of our call-outs is going to be kind of right in between here, between this subheader and this one. So if I pull our Word document over, it's going to be down here a little bit further. Do people even care what happens? So this is going to kind of just be right in between a survey that we'll have on one side and then a text block that we'll have on the other. So let's go ahead and set this up. Just go ahead and copy and paste that. And we'll just paste that right there. And let's have a question mark at the end of that. And so what I want to do is kind of just set this up. We'll use PFDIN just like we have been, and I'm going to change that to bold. And I'm going to start out with do being on a line by itself. And then let's just put each word on its own line. So it's going to, feel like a very vertical block of text. And then I just want to kind of work on making this fit in this space. So I'm going to get do to the point that I want it to be. And really, for this to be successful, everything needs to be caps. So I'm going to select everything and we'll turn on all caps for that. Then let's go ahead and make this bigger. I mean, we're going to go big with it. So let's do 80 point for that. And then I'm just going to kind of do the process of coming in here and making this all the same width. So you might need to come in, zoom in a bit. You can maybe create a couple of guides. That'll help you. And just keep in mind, guides aren't the end-all be-all of, making this look perfect, because you're going to have some letters that just feel like they need to be over a little bit more one way or the other, simply because of the shape of the letter. So if it's a really rounded letter on the end, it might feel a little bit different than one that is very straight on the edge. So a letter like this letter N is going to, that's very straight on the edge, so it's going to feel a lot different. Now this W, I'm going to scoot it over, but it's probably going to feel like it's a little bit too far over to the right just because of that not being a straight line. So I can move that back a little bit to the left. And once you scoot back from the whole thing, it all just kind of comes together and feels like it was supposed to be that way all along, even though those guides are, not exactly lined up with its edge. So I'll just kind of pull that in there. And then let's go ahead and play with our leading a little bit. So it's going to vary from letter to letter just because the size of the letters are different. So I'm just going to come in here and kind of optically get them to be the same. And we'll just continue that process. And you may need to switch over just so you can kind of scroll up a little bit. And don't forget that holding shift will make that go 10 points at a time instead of 1 point at a time. Okay, so now we can kind of move back here and you can see what that looks like. Now I'm going to take those two guides and we'll just delete them. We don't need them anymore. And we have a nice kind of little block of text right here that's going to allow us to really start kind of fleshing everything else out, just giving us an idea of what this needs to look like. We can maybe move this up a little bit more. And this piece right here, let's go ahead and center align that. So I'll just do one of those and just make sure the space here and here is the same. So if that means you need to move one or two things around, that's going to be okay. Now I know that the information that I'll have here and here is going to be smaller than what I'll have down here. So this is going to take up a lot of room once we get to this part of the project. So now let's set up our other block of text, and that's going to be down here in the lower right. And this is just kind of that final statement that people will be left with. So there are many conservation groups trying to rescue the reefs. Many reefs are being designated as protected areas, and some places are making stricter fishing laws. So we'll go ahead and take that, copy that, And that's what we're going to be using here. Now, you can do this in a box, or you could do this on a line. I prefer to use line whenever I'm kind of setting them up this way. So I'm just going to click and hit Control V to paste that, just kind of like what we've been doing so far. And so now let's go ahead and just start to get this set up. Now, we could put this just perfectly in this block here, but I know that what I'm going to be using in this area here later is a graph, just because I've really looked over that Word document. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of center this between this middle area here and this edge here. So we're still going to right align with the grid. So we'll figure out exactly how to make that fit in a minute. So there are many conservation groups. Conservation groups really sticks out to me. So I'm going to put that on its own line. And we have trying to rescue the reefs. That's a good place to break it, just right there at the period. Many reefs are being designated as protected areas. So let's put many reefs as its own, and then are being designated as protected areas. So let's go ahead and have protected areas be on its own line. That seems like a very important bit of text. And some places are making, let's have stricter fishing laws be on its own line. So just kind of have broken that up just like that. Now let's go ahead and work with our Garamond for this piece. So I'll just highlighted that. We'll grab the eyedropper and let's just see how big that looks. And we'll go ahead and do a left alignment again, just to make sure that that's working out. And so this is a little bit too big. Let's go ahead and change the color of this to our navy color. And I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, just right in there. And then conservation groups is going to need to be bigger. I'm going to change that to a light stance. And also, I don't feel like this needs to be all caps, so let's go ahead and come in here. We'll change that, and then we'll be able to make that just a little bit bigger. And if you want to, you could even tighten that up a little bit, and then again, make it just a little bit larger. Maybe add a little bit of leading just to make that fit better there. Trying to rescue the reefs. Let's go ahead and do a Garamond for this one. And this is going to be much smaller, so I'll just double click in here. And let's just kind of fit this here. Now this is at 400. I think that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we'll go ahead and just bring that up a little bit with its leading. And then let's go ahead and move on to many reefs. I think we could kind of use that same there are many. So I'll go ahead and eyedrop that. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. And to get that to fit along that edge, I might have to do a half point. So I'm just going to click in here and we'll do 31.5, and that will fix that. Are being designated as, let's kind of just try to mirror that trying to rescue. So we'll just go ahead and grab that. Maybe it needs to be just a little bit bigger to bring it over to that edge. And again, let's do a 13.5 just to push that over. Maybe a 13.75. There we go. Protected areas, that's going to need to be much bigger. And let's take that down from bold just to a regular. I'll go ahead and leave this as a slightly larger. We'll just leave this at all caps. Maybe not regular. Let's maybe take it down to a light. Maybe even a thin, just to add some variety. And we'll push this down. And now we're kind of starting to get into not maybe having enough room, so I'm going to bring this up a little bit just to kind of pull that in there. And this one as well, so just kind of pulling up that leading to give us a little more room. And some places are making, let's go ahead and eyedrop one of these that we've used so far. And I don't want to go much smaller than 12, so I'm just going to pull this down just a little bit just to bring that in on that line there. And we can go ahead and maybe nudge this up just a bit just to give us a little bit more room here at the bottom. Just kind of right in here. Just like that. And then let's go ahead and stricter fishing laws we're going to make fit across here. And again, let's not do bold, let's do something like regular. And you can see how that kind of makes it just feel a little bit taller as well. And we'll get some more room and bring that one up. So I'm just kind of working, getting that into a nice block of text there. So this is really meant to be really pretty. Just kind of draw your eye in to read that piece of text. And then later on, maybe we'll have a little bit of a graphic here at the bottom. So I don't want that to sit right on that line. Okay, so now maybe we come in and change the color up here a bit. So I'm going to change stricter fishing laws just to really bring that home, and we'll turn that to yellow. And then let's also have a rule line at this point. So trying to rescue the reefs is kind of the end of a sentence. So we'll just shift click across there, flip that over. Let's do our navy color for that. And then we might want to put just a little bit more room in between here. So I'll just kind of bump that down a bit. And that roll line we can just push in between there. So that looks a lot better. Let's go ahead now and we'll just group the whole thing. So hit Control G to group that. And now we have one last block of text that we want to set up. And that's going to be just kind of going back up here to where we were looking at earlier, just kind of that piece of text right here. So let's just do that really quickly. And that's going to be the bit of text that comes right before do people even care what happens? So this block of text right here. And this is just going to be set up as, you know, text that you would read like you would see in a book. So we have other text like that that's right there. So I'm just going to drag that down. I just alt dragged that to copy it. And let's just kind of align this with the top here. And I'll pull this edge over, and then we'll pull this edge back over so that it fits nicely inside of the column. And then we'll just select everything and hit Control V to paste in that text from our Word document. So that looks pretty good. And now, you know, this just really feels like we've got a lot of nice breathing room here. It doesn't feel like everything's too close together. Has a nice amount of space in between each of those. And then we've got this block that we've set up down here. So, you know, if you're doing this yourself, you could play around with this a little bit more, maybe not have so much variation if you wanted to make it, you know, maybe more readable instead of just those call outs. So conservation groups, many reefs, protected areas, stricter fishing laws is kind of what you read when you look at this. So you're just kind of going through, you know, and reading those pieces instead of maybe reading the whole thing all the way through like you would this bit of text. So you can kind of understand that contrast there a little bit better. So now that we have those created, we have actually set pretty much all of the major pieces of text in our document. You can kind of see what it looks like with all of those sitting in there. And I wanted to do that first because making the graphics after that, you know, that needs to work around the message that you're trying to carry. Now, some of our graphics are going to have a message that really is carried in those, and that's going to be things like some of the charts that we'll be creating. So in our next lesson, we're going to be learning how to create pie charts using Illustrator's built-in tools. So stick around, and we're going to talk about how to do that in our next lesson.